just to cover a few more of the functions that allow you to explore data structures in R. Um, I just used one called the length that lets you know something about the length of the data structure. There are also more specific uh, functions that let you know the number of rows and the number of columns. So if you know you're dealing with a two-dimensional data structure, nrow and ncol is a less ambiguous way of finding out how many rows and how many columns there are. So if I have my data frame that is 2 columns and 50 rows, I can do an nrow, and I get 50. I can do an ncol, and I get 2. If I do a length on df, see if you can guess what this might be. Remember what a data frame is. It's a vector, it's a list of vectors. And the list is a list of the columns, right? So when you do a length on a data frame, it's going to tell you the number of columns, which may not be super intuitive unless you are aware of the basic structure of a data frame being a list of vectors. I think intuitively speaking, when we talk about the length of a table, we're all thinking, oh, that's the number of rows. But that's not what you're going to get when you use length on a data frame in R. There is a str function that stands for structure that gives you a summary of the structure of whatever data type that you're looking at. So for a data frame, it's going to tell you what the columns are and then give you a summary of what's in those columns. It also tells you it's 50 observations of 2 variables, so that's telling you there are 50 rows and 2 columns. That will return something different depending on what data structure that you use it on. But the str will typically give you some summary of that data structure that can be very useful. When you're talking about large data structures, you typically don't want to look at the whole thing at once. In fact, if you try to, it'll get truncated anyway. And many times, what you want to see is either the very beginning or the very end. So there is a head function that lets me just look at the first 6 rows. And there's a tail function that lets me look at the last 6 rows. And also, if you look at the help for head and tail, there are other arguments that lets you say, look at more rows than just 6. So you have the options to do that. So head and tail, when I'm using the console to look at data structures, I use those quite frequently, and they're useful. Again, it lets you see the first or last few rows. There's a summary function. And this is also another one that will do something different depending on the data type that you call it on. But if you do a summary on something like a data frame, let me create one with some meaningful numbers here. And I do a summary on that data frame. It's going to give me the summary statistics of my columns. So the minimum, the maximum, the first and third quartiles, the median, and the mean for each of the columns. So summary can be a really useful way to summarize the nature of the data. And again, what you get for summary is going to vary with data structure, but this is what you're going to get when you call summary on a data frame.